good evening, everybody. You can all hear me quite well? Yes. Yes, hi. I'd like to welcome you all to our Italian Family History group this evening, and we welcome everyone, to any new people or old people, and we hope you'll continue supporting our group. My name is Maria Linders, and I've recently been appointed the new chairperson of the Italian Family History group, due unfortunately to our old chairperson, Art Phillips. He had to resign due to his heavy work commitments. So now you're stuck with me, and I hope he's got very big shoes to fill, so hopefully I can do as good a job as Art has done for us in the past. Okay, and next I'd just like to thank Antonio Luciano. He provided the film. Next I'd like to give a very special thanks to our sponsors who helped very greatly in supporting us and ensuring that our group can continue. If any of you are ever interested in becoming our sponsor, there's gold, silver, or platinum, gold or silver. We'd love to hear from you. Also, I need to give a very special thanks to our committee. They're all volunteers and they do a tremendous amount of work, and I'd like to thank them personally. So now, I'd like to introduce to you Danielle Gullaci. She's the editor of Italianicious magazine, and she's going to speak about her work as creative journalist and editor for Prime Creative Italianicious magazine. It's a sought-after publication of Italian cuisine, travel, culture, wine, style, people and events. And I don't know if all of you have seen these magazines. They are really beautifully presented magazines, and they have so much interesting information as far as food, and they usually concentrate on an area of Italy they write about. And you can also go online and even ask to have receive their newsletters, which are also very interesting. So anyway, with no further ado, I'd like to ask Danielle to come on down. Danielle has chosen to be interviewed, so we'll be sitting here having a little chat, okay?
Hello everyone, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming, Danielle. We really appreciate it. First of all, Danielle's given us a little movie, which I'd like to show you, showing you a little bit about Italianicious. First of all, we might start asking Danielle, where were you born? Were you born in Italy or Australia?
No, I was actually born in Melbourne. My parents were born in Melbourne as well, but my grandparents all migrated from Italy along with my aunties and uncles as well.
Okay, and so what part of Italy did they come from?
On my father's side, my grandparents are from Basilicata, from the province of Potenza, a small town called Massico Nuovo. And on my mother's side, my grandparents are from a small town called Sortino in the province of Siracusa in Sicily.
Okay, and who came to Australia first? Was it your grandparents or grandfather? Or?
Yeah, on my mother's side, they actually came over together after the war. Along with my aunties and uncles, my mother and her twin brother were the youngest, so they were born here, but the others were all born in Sicily. On my father's side, it was actually my grandfather that came first with his brother and his parents, he married my grandmother by proxy, and then she came over as well, and they started their life in Melbourne.
Ah, it sounds such a familiar story, I think, because I know my grandfather married by proxy as well to my grandmother, and I know with my mother, the brothers came out first to set themselves up and then eventually asked for the remaining family, so it seems to have been the done thing with most. So, have you been to Italy?
I have. I've been lucky enough to actually visit a few times. I've seen quite a few parts of Italy, but there's still so much more that I want to see. I mean, there's so many wonderful places in Italy to visit, so hopefully I can get back there a few more times.
I know that when you read the Italianicious magazines, you always do an article on specific areas of Italy, which are beautifully done. The photos are lovely. The presentation and the writing is lovely. So how do you get to write those different... Is it after you've visited them, or...?
Not always. Sometimes it is. We focus on a different region in every single issue. So we'll have our major travel article will be on a specific region. And I actually write those articles, so a lot of research goes into those. And we look at the region in its entirety, so look at each of the provinces, the places to visit, what the region is known for, and all of that sort of stuff. And also focus on a few other different areas as well, so we've got a bit of a mix in there. We've always got a few travel articles included in the magazine.
Do you have any extended family left in Italy?
I do, not on my mother's side, but on my father's side. My grandmother actually came over. She was the only one in her family to come over here, so her sisters and their families all remained over there, and I was lucky enough to actually visit the town that she was from and also meet all of the extended family over there a few years ago, which was a very wonderful experience.
Did they, how was like the relationship? Was it like they'd always known you for your whole life?
Yeah, it was funny. My grandmother actually hadn't been over for over 20 years, and even though they hadn't seen each other for such a long time, there was that resemblance. Even their mannerisms, it was just unbelievable to see. Before anyone even said who was who, I immediately could pick out her sisters.
It's quite ironic how the genes sort of seem to stay there, doesn't it? I know even these days when we're walking through the city or something, my husband will say, that man has got to be related to you because he looks like all your family. He probably is somewhere along the line. You probably all felt the same. But I know when we visited the Aeolian Islands, we had a family reunion there, and all the same names were there, but we didn't really know because there were so many generations on. But it was like we were part of the family as soon as you told them what your surname was. So it's quite a lovely feeling. It was like coming home, and I also was born in Australia. So did you find that?
Yeah, there was this immediate connection which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And we actually got to see the house that my grandmother grew up in. Is still owned by the family. No one lives there now. It's run down and derelict, but they actually took us over to have a look, and it was empty except for one chair, but it was great to actually be able to see that, and also see where my grandfather grew up as well, which was in the main square in the town. So yeah, it was a really great experience.
Yeah. Now, did you start off being a journalist, or...?
Not straight away. So I studied journalism, and when I came out of uni, journalism is one of those things that, as a lot of people will say, is quite hard to get your foot in the door. So I actually started working for a major newspaper doing something completely unrelated to writing while I continued to look for work as a journalist. And I was lucky enough to actually find a job at Prime Creative. At the time it wasn't for Italianicious. The company didn't actually own Italianicious at that point. I was actually working on one of the truck magazines, which I did for a number of years, and starting off as journalist, and then I became editor. And before long, the company had acquired Italianicious, and I was given the opportunity to write for Italianicious, which I jumped at, and now I've been doing that for the last five and a half years.
Congratulations, that's a wonderful achievement. You look too young to have done all that. But at my age, everybody looks young. So, okay, so have you got any special career experiences that you might like to relate to? Maybe funny, like you must have some funny things happen if you're a journalist or an editor. Or...
Yeah, there's always funny things that happen, I guess. But it's great to get out and meet people and be able to interview people and learn their stories as well. I've had the opportunity to also travel to Italy a few times through my work and visit a few different production facilities for different food products, such as a Parmigiano Reggiano producer. We went to the farms to see the cows and watch the whole process and saw all of that. And the same thing for the balsamic vinegar and a few others, a pasta factory and all of that sort of stuff. So I've been very lucky to be able to experience all of those things through my role.
And how many people would be involved in the Italianicious magazine?
So Italianicious, the majority of writing is done by me. We also have a few freelance writers that are based in Italy, which is great because we get some of those great stories that would be, I guess, impossible to do from here, impossible to get the interviews with the right people, to get the photos that we need. So we've got some really, really great freelance journalists that we work with. I've been working with for quite a few years, and we've got a great design team as well. So there's a few of us involved.
Yes, as I said, it's just so beautifully produced and presented. It's quite a magnificent magazine. So, but I think I found myself when I wanted to start getting it, but it was very difficult to find it in a lot of just general news agencies. Do you find that a problem with distribution?
Yeah, so it is available at the major news agencies. We do also have it at a few different delis and providors around the country, mainly Sydney and Melbourne. And it's available by subscription online too, which is probably the easiest way to make sure that you're not missing out on any of the future issues.
Yeah, that's what I did. I subscribed because I just, unless I came over to Leichhardt or Five Dock or somewhere where there's a greater Italian community, it was difficult to buy it. So, but I'm glad I subscribed because it's really, really good. Okay, so what about, so what do you enjoy most about work? Is it having the trips or just talking and writing Italian or?
The trips are great. I won't lie. I love any opportunity to go and visit Italy. But also getting out and meeting people and learning about, every time I write something, I'm always learning something new. The research for all of these region features as well, every time I write one of those, I just find somewhere new that I want to go, which is always lovely. And the food shoots are great too. I love doing the food shoots.
Yes. No, it's, as I said, and do you ever cook any of the recipes that are in there?
I do. I've got a few go-to recipes and a few others that I've sort of lined up that I need to try.
I know. When I look and see all these lovely recipes, I keep thinking, oh, I'm going to make that, but then I sort of lose the incentive after a while. So, okay, so what do you think your future will be? Do you think you'll be staying in expanding Italianicious, or do you have any ideas in that regard?
In terms of expanding the magazine?
Yes, yes.
The aim is obviously to keep on growing the magazine in terms of our distribution, our subscribers and our readership, and hopefully we continue going in that direction.
Right, okay then. And well, you mentioned your travel experiences, so you have you been to other parts of the world besides Italy?
I have. I have travelled quite a bit with my husband. We actually went to the World Cup a couple of years ago, so we did Brazil, Argentina and America. Mm-hmm. We've also visited France and England, so we've done a little bit of travel, which is great. Yeah. And we met some relatives as well. My husband's actually got some relatives in Argentina. When his family came over to Australia, half came to Australia and half went to Argentina, so we had the opportunity to meet them too, which was wonderful.
Yeah, that was quite common, wasn't it? A lot of them, they either went to America, Australia or Argentina. So you were lucky to have Argentina. It would have been really interesting to have relatives. My other side went to America, which is all right, I guess, but I think Argentina would be a lot more interesting and a lot more enjoyable to visit. So do you sort of get the opportunity very often to do some presentations on the Italian, to promote Italianicious?
Yeah, I've had a few opportunities, a few radio opportunities too, which is quite interesting. That's always an interesting thing to do. We sponsor quite a few events as well, so we're involved with the Italian Film Festival through Palace, and also quite a few different Italian street festivals that happen around Australia. And there's a salami festa that we're involved in, a tomato festival. There's so many Italian events that happen throughout the year, so it's great to have the opportunity to get involved in those as well.
Yes, I think Melbourne seems to have more than Sydney. Is that right? Do you think?
Yeah, well, we don't really have a street festival as such. I know that here there's Northern Street Festival, which is great, and I've been to a few times, and Ferragosto in Five Dock. Yes. We don't have that anymore, but we've got a few new food festivals that have sort of come up in the last few years. So there's a salami festa that's been growing in popularity, and a tomato festa that was launched last year, which is all about making the tomato sauce. So yeah, there's a lot of that happening at the moment, which is great to see.
Yeah, no, because when I was reading your magazine, it seems to focus quite a bit on activities that are happening in Melbourne, and I was getting a bit jealous actually.
Yeah, we seem to have a lot of the Italian events, which is why a lot of those articles do focus on events that are in Melbourne.
Yeah. Okay. All right then, so what I'd like to do now is maybe walk around and see if anybody has any questions.
Hi Danielle, how are you? My name is Maria. I'm on the committee of the Italian Family History Group. Just a couple of questions. First of all, in relation to the old magazine of Italian Issues and now the one that you've currently edited.
Yeah, so the magazine, as some people would be aware, was actually started in Sydney by two women that had a very strong passion for Italy. We took over the magazine in 2010, so late 2010, with our first issue at the end of that year. And we did quite a few design changes, and through the years have added different regular components to the magazine too. So I guess it's just grown and developed over time.
How much of, in the magazine itself, do you source out Italians in Australia in the food industry or in the cultural industry? How much content of that goes into each magazine? Do you have a specific amount allocated for that, and then a specific amount allocated for what's going on overseas as well? Or just does it depend on each magazine differently?
Being an Australian magazine, most of the content is centred around Australia, apart from the travel articles. So the guest chefs that we have in each edition will always be from Australia, from different states around Australia, and a lot of the other articles will also be from around Australia. The main ones that focus on Italy are all of the travel articles as well as our design features. We regularly run features on different artisans from around Italy, looking at some of the age-old crafts that have been done in the same way for hundreds and hundreds of years, which are always really fascinating.
And just one more question, if I can. Do you do any articles or presentations on Italians in other parts of the world, doing this sort of food and that type of thing that are prominent in other countries, say like Argentina or in America or anything like that, or is it strictly Australia and Italy?
No, it is pretty strictly Australia and Italy.
Thank you very much.
I'm Rita Ladonia. I'm born here in Australia, and so is my mother. But when we went to Italy in 1969, and I had the same feelings as you, when we walked into my nonno's house, there were my mother's first cousins around, and what struck me about, as you say, the genes, my mother's two cousins, male cousins, were sitting at the table talking to my husband and my two uncles that were born here. It was just crazy. They were speaking Italian. My uncles only ever spoke English, but the gestures and everything is just, it's incredible. And we've been back 4 times now, and we're going again in August, which is now, who are left mostly like my third cousins, and we know them very well. But it's, as you say, it is just family, and I'm very proud to be Australian, but my heart is Italian. It's just, when I just walk around the village and the town, it's just like coming home.
Yeah.
So I think, a lot of people probably have that same experiences, but a lot of people don't understand that though, really. Even my uncle here, when I said to him, when I went into your father's house and your grandfather's house, it was just like coming home. I don't be ridiculous, we're all born here, but the women in my mother's family had a different opinion, and it's very much the genes. Thank you.
That was very nice to actually share with the evening. I just wanted to ask you, in terms of the content of magazines and compliments for the magazine, the readership is it essentially Australian? Italian food is very, very much very popular and growing in popularity, and the second part of the question is your magazine, is the circulation growing, the demand for the magazine growing?
With all of these events that we're involved in, it does help to obviously promote the magazine and introduce it to new people. So the readership definitely is continuing to grow. Our readership is very much Australian based. We do have some that we do offer international subscriptions as well, so some people do purchase it overseas, and we also have it available on the app. We find with the app, although it is mainly Australian, we also get people from other countries as well downloading the app version of the magazine.
Is it a yuppie type readership, 30 to 55, or is it right across the board? Because the younger Australians seem to be very, when I say Australian, younger residents of Australia seem to be very interested in Italian food more and more all the time. What would be the age group of your readers?
Our biggest readership is from around 40 to 60, but we are finding that we are getting a lot of younger readers as well that are interested in Italian cuisine, in travel. Our readership is also very mixed between people that have that Italian descent and also people that are just interested in Italy, whether they've travelled there and have fallen in love with it or they love the Italian food. We've got a very big mix of readers now, we're finding, more so than in the past, I think.
Good on you, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Raffaella. My parents came from central Italy, from Provincia Caserta, but I married into a family from Filicudi. And you mentioned Filicudi, didn't you? In the Aeolian Islands?
That was Maria.
Oh,
Mentioned
Maria.
Maria.
Oh, I see.
My parents
Yes.
are from Salina.
Yes. So have you ever done anything on the cuisine of Filicudi, of the Aeolian Islands?
Not that long ago I had something on the capers from the Aeolian Islands,
Yes.
which are very well known.
Yes,
And we've also had a few travel articles on the Aeolian Islands as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Danielle. That's very nice of you to come and give us your speech. My name is Tina, and I would like to ask you, how often does your magazine come out? Every month or 3 months?
It's released every 2 months, so we've got 6 editions a year.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Because I remember my mother's cooking was very, it's often said as like peasant type food, because she cooked a lot with all the different legumes and beans and chickpeas and because I've only recently subscribed to your magazine, has your magazine ever done something on that line of food?
We haven't actually had an Aeolian chef as our guest chef yet, but
Yeah. My mum, by the time Mum died, I wasn't really into all this lovely cooking. Because unfortunately, when I was younger, I tried to pretend I wasn't Italian because everybody called you Dago. So I never told anyone I was Italian. Then, of course, when Mum died, I missed the opportunity. So I would love to be able to cook some of those beautiful soups and things that Mum used to make. They were lovely. So is there any other questions? No? Okay. So I just want to thank you all very much for coming. I think the State of Origin has kept a few people away, and I'm sure they'll be sorry that they missed this very interesting session. I'd just like to give Danielle a small gift of appreciation, and thank you very much for coming and helping us out. So Maria's written a book as well, which is one of the raffle prizes, and she's kindly donated to us this evening.
we've got a green ticket, E55. Okay, this time we've got a purple ticket, F90. We've got a green ticket again. This one's E60. Okay, we've got green again. This time we're E70. Okay, we've got green, E78. Okay, we've got another green one. This time it's E71. Okay, we've got green, E67. Okay, green, E50. Okay, we've got green, E79. We're not doing too well here. How many tickets have you got? Okay, green, E68. Okay, we've got purple this time. It's F95. Yes, thank you.
Thank you all again for coming this evening.